You live your whole life, and then in 1 second you learn what it's like for primal terror to swallow you, mind and body. He was standing in the hallway, lit only on his left side by the bulb. Just as he appeared in the photograph I'd found, he was very small, much shorter than his brother, my father, Eric. The family had said he'd always been boy-faced and a bit skinny. Now, standing there, he looked old and sick as well. But he looked angry, too. Not for a moment did I think he was alive, and some terrible mistake had been made. I knew, instinctively, that he was not really there, that I was looking at Herman in the depleted physical state he had died in. "He was wrong," he said again, his whole body trembling slightly. He jabbed his finger toward me, almost in tears. "I could have been a chemist. I had the grades." I think I tried to speak then, but wasn't able. Uncle Herman kept his finger pointed in a threatening way, as if it were up to me to change the past. He turned with creaky slowness and took a couple of steps deeper into the hallway toward the kitchen, leaving all light behind him, becoming a silhouette. He turned back just before he reached the threshold of the other room. His face was a black blur, but his voice was still clear. "There's a fourth body, you know," he said, voice hoarse. "Shovel's still in the shed."
Knife Point Horror. Tales of supernatural suspense written, produced, and narrated by Soren Narnia. Now transmitting from SpectreVision Radio, anywhere you hear podcasts.
SpectreVision Radio.
Telemetry in launch condition.
Well, some other observers are...
Hey, it's late night.
It's late night on the astral plane, where it's never too late. With your host, Brian Singer.
It's more fun to believe.
Hey everyone, thank you for joining me, Brian Singer, for another voyage, late night on the astral plane. We've got a lot to cover today. We are going to go solo style. It's been a minute since I've had a solo voyage for you, so we're going to do that here tonight. I want to cover a couple things. I want to cover a little bit about the Boogosphere and Three Eye Atlas, potentially. I'm going to get into, where is it? I finished, hopefully it doesn't make too much noise. I finally finished, as you can see here, Far Journey Travel Far Journeys, Journeys Out of the Body. This is the second of 3 books by Robert Monroe detailing his OOBEs, out of body experiences. I call them OBEs just for short, double OBE, you know, here on Late Night on Tap. That's what we can call it. Late Night on the Astral Plane, TAP, the Astral Plane. So we're just going to say Late Night on Tap. Here, Late Night on Tap, we're going to have some things. I actually do have some things that we need to get to. I can't believe this, but I have a sponsor we have to talk about. I've got 2 sponsors, actually. The first sponsor is October Custom Publishing. They do all of my T-shirts. They do all my posters when I'm going on tour. You got to hit up OCP. OctoberCustomPublishing.com. You can find them. They are incredible. All of my tour t-shirts for the last handful of years and posters have come through them. Torkel hooks you up. He does so much of the design work. They also do magazines. Do you want to make a zine? Do you want to make your own little magazine? Do you want to make your own, have your own little 14 press? You can do it through OCP, and I highly recommend it. The other one, we're gonna break here in a second because we got to keep the blue light on here. And I can't believe, but we have a sponsor out of Vegas that I have to get to. And so we're going to drop that here. Somehow Nigel hooked this up, and we're not going to get into, having to have that conversation with Nigel necessarily. But, I don't love all the time when you don't have control over some of the promos, right? That get played and the commercials that get played on the program. So you just kind of have to, cross your fingers and hope for the best. But so this is the other one. It ties in. It actually ties into some of the things we're going to be talking about here today. So let me throw it over to the promo here real quick.
This November, for one night only, a match made in intergalactic heaven. The Sphere in Las Vegas is proud to welcome the Boogosphere. One night and one show only. Get tickets while they're still in Earth to party on. You've heard the stories, you've read the headlines. Now see the Boogosphere live in person for yourself. It'll be playing some of its biggest hits like Anti-Gravity. Gravity.
Nothing brings me down, nothing gets me down. Nothing gets me down, nothing brings me down.
Special guest opener, Atlas 3i.
On my way to go see the red planet. On my way to get a little taste of Mars. I'm not an android, baby. Oh, no, no, no. You know I'm not a comet. I'm an alien mothership. Come on, get on board.
This show will be out of this world. Brought to you by those who brought you the Riyadh Comedy Festival.
Hey, man. Hey, aliens are just like us. You know what I mean? They got a Chili's. I saw a reptilian drinking Dunkin' Donuts the other day. For real, I did. What's it to you?
Boom. There you go. You heard it here first, I guess. One night only, the Boogosphere at the Sphere in Las Vegas, along with 3i Atlas. I didn't know that they had musical careers. I don't know how you would classify those types of music, but it looks like it could be a good time. Party might be your last time to ever party on Earth. That's a little disconcerting. That's a little, I don't love that kind of messaging, but hey, who am I to say? You know what I mean? And the, obviously I'm a stand-up comedian. I did not go to the Riyadh Comedy Festival. But that's been in the news a lot as well. So I guess I had my price over here, didn't I? Because I'm now, that is ridiculous. Like I said, we don't necessarily always get to choose the advertisers on the show. Anyway, let's start with talking a little bit about the Boogosphere, if we can. I think maybe we can get into that. There's Dr. Greer has a new interview out. It's on Gaia TV. I've had my issues with Gaia TV in the past. I don't have a subscription, but the interview is available on Cosmic Disclosure. So on that program, I'm Team Greer over here. I think we probably, most of us know that. If you listen to this show, you know that I'm pretty, I'm pretty Team Greer over here. There are other people. There's like, UFO Twitter and TikTok and YouTube and all that kind of stuff or whatever. There's very prominent personalities on there that are not Team Greer. So the Boogosphere, as you know, is allegedly of extraterrestrial origins. And maybe you don't know. It's about the size of a basketball, right? It's got all these really cool designs and design work, drawings or etchings or whatever they are. It has been carbon dated, and the carbon dating will say that it's over 12,500 years old. So if something is extraterrestrial, how are we carbon dating it here on Earth? There seems to be some kind of organic material. Some people seem to be having problems with the boogosphere. Other people seem to be having problems with 3i Atlas or Atlas 3i. Everybody's gonna have problems with everything. There's people who are like, "Oh, it's a hoax. The boogosphere is a hoax. You should be paying attention to 3i. You should be paying attention to Atlas, not the boogosphere." And people are like, "Well, you got to be the Atlas 3i is nothing. You need to be paying attention to the boogosphere, right?" There's video of the boogosphere. It's pretty interesting. You see it kind of floating around and doing its thing. Here's some of the greatest hits about the boogosphere. The boogosphere is supposedly it has anti-gravity technology. It has microfibers that are embedded within it somehow. They say that it will react to certain sound frequencies. It's seamless, meaning it's not like one of those plastic Easter eggs, seemingly. See, there's some of the big things, right? And then you get into the carbon dating aspect of it. Now, this was discovered in Colombia, and I can't help but think back to, gosh, there was a time when back in the day when I was on Twitter, and I've saved these somewhere, and I'm not exactly sure where they are now, but I've been all over the place. I just got home, about a week and a half ago now from Florida, and maybe 2 weeks ago now from Florida, from being gone for 3.5 months. So as you can imagine, I'm kind of trying to figure all this out, right? I'm trying to get settled back in, trying to do my thing, get my routine and all that stuff. But there was someone who alleged to be a time traveler. And I wish I could remember the specifics, but they were saying it wasn't Colombia, actually, it was Brazil. They were saying that Brazil would discover some kind of natural resource or some kind of technology, and that would just change absolutely everything. And it would create such a power shift of a dynamic power shift and power dynamic, a shift in power dynamics. That's how I'm supposed to say that, I believe. That they could basically open these kind of like black holes over countries and just suck everything away or something. And it's wild stuff, right? Now, hopefully that's not true. But you get into the predictions of futures, and I think even Christopher Bledsoe's out there trying to give a date for, I think, March 25th of next year, for something to happen. When people start giving specific dates, that's when I start getting a little weary. Or a little wary, I should say, because how many times has that happened? How many times has a date been given by someone who's connected to source or a messenger from the great beyond, and et cetera, and they're the messenger now, and they give a specific date, and does something happen? Does it not happen? I guess we got about 6 months to figure that out. And so I don't put a lot of stock in that. I'm not gonna there was a TikTok rapture that was supposed to just happen like a week and a half ago. Rontowski messaged me. She's like, "Oh yeah, everyone on TikTok says the rapture's happening tomorrow." I was like, "Oh, what?" News to me. I guess I shouldn't have went to the grocery store today. And then everyone I know is still here, so maybe no one I know was rapturable. But anyway, the rapture didn't happen. A lot of people apparently gave up all their earthly belongings and things like that. So I don't know. I guess you live with the consequences of the beliefs that you buy into. I don't know. I don't want everyone to lose everything because of a lie that was told to them or fed to them by someone or somehow that seemed to make sense. Nonetheless, the rapture didn't happen. I mean, you look around the United States and you see the Christian fascists, and you see the destruction of what was once, at least, pretending to be a pretty democratic society, even though there's a lot of people who would tell you that it never really was fully that. And you just look at all these creeps, these Christian creeps out there. They're just like destroying everything and pretending to be holier than thou, and meanwhile people are being kidnapped from their apartments and zip tied, separated from children. It's just some awful stuff happening right now, and not to even mention the climate change and the unmitigated regulations that are no longer in place under the current administration, as all of their billionaire friends get rich. And then you have genocide happening in Gaza, where the Palestinian people are being, effectively wiped off the face of the earth. Zionists are, scary, scary stuff. So I don't know. You've got, there's lots of things to worry about, and there's lots of things to, possess our minds, right? And I don't know. Some people are like, oh, they're feeding off of your negative energy, and we're going to get into that, because we're going to get to the origins, and we're going to get to the bottom of that whole BS reptilian, the black goo stuff, and all that. In my opinion, what in my opinion would be BS. We're going to get into that as well. I'm not keeping track of time, but here we are. So we wait. Basically, what I'm saying here is there's something moving in my mirror there. That's weird. Oh, that's my shot. Oh my gosh. If you're watching on Spotify, you can see that. Anyway, so we're still waiting. We're kind of in a holding pattern, waiting on things about the Booga sphere. So I'm sure after its short little run at the Sphere in Las Vegas, there'll be more info maybe. But people have issues, people have concerns about the Booga sphere. I don't know. For me, I'm on Team Greer. What is Dr. Greer ever saying that isn't aliens are peaceful? They want us all together. Werner von Braun warned about the alien threat to try to institute authoritarianism. If you look at this with the elections in November, and then Atlas 3I on track, it is interesting, right? Let's look at something here real quick. So we've got 3I Atlas 3I. I keep transposing that or whatever. It's also known as C2025NI and previously A11PL3Z. It's an interstellar comet. This is what the internet will tell you. It's an interstellar comet discovered by asteroid terrestrial impact laser exert system, last alert system, at the Rio Hurtado in Chile, on July 1st of this year, 2025. Now, there are interesting things happening with this alleged interstellar comet, even though in its song it told us it's not a comet. So I tend to believe, straight from the interstellar object's mouth, I suppose, is what we got to believe. Oh, what's here? Oh, I'm getting an alert that my subscription is paused here on Zoom. Interesting. Or as soon as I open up Zoom and start using it. So this might be a little shorter than normal. What were we talking about? Oh, yeah. Okay. So we've got Atlas 3I and the Boogosphere. And I was reading this article from this guy, and he's just kind of a hater. He's just this guy. He's not even worth mentioning. I was on a blog reading information from someone who has conversations with Dr. Greer about these things. And he was like, oh, it's all a ruse. It's a hoax. They're trying to get you to pay attention to the Boogosphere so you don't pay attention to Atlas 3I. Meanwhile, you've got Avi Loeb. He's in the camp of, saying, kind of trying to bring this attention out to everybody. Obviously he wrote, we've talked about Avi Loeb on here before, as he used to be in charge of the astronomy, big difference, the astronomy department at Harvard. He wrote the book Extraterrestrial, which is, I've got back there somewhere. We don't need to reference it here. Something I was kind of shocked to hear, I'm going to be honest with you, because Dr. Greer only talks about, aliens, peace, come together, we can do this. He has started calling certain disinformation people, disinformation. It's like a disinformation agent is a disinformagent. So a disinformagent. He started calling these people out. Lou Elizondo, particularly, is someone that I've referenced in this way previously. He he says that Avi Loeb is part of the cell, as he calls it, of disinformation to try to scare people. That shocked me. I didn't love hearing that. I really didn't enjoy hearing that. I mean, I could. How many books do I have in this room that I've read over the years that were, pretty impactful for me? That later I've just been like, ugh, can't believe I got so into that book. The Lucifer Effect by the scam artist Dr. Philip Zimbardo is one of them from the prison, the Stanford prison experiment. That guy's what a scam artist that guy is. But an extraterrestrial, it's not that's still a good book. I still recommend reading it. I didn't read that book and walk away frightened or scared. Did Avi Loeb get? I don't know. Does Greer think he got folded into this? I don't know, right? But we're going to take a quick break. And when we come back, I want to talk a little bit about far journeys. Speaking of things coming, interstellar objects and things coming in here. I do think some of this ties in together. It ties into, and we're going to go deeper diving. We're going to go deeper diving into the Boogosphere and Atlas 3I. In the future. The Boogosphere needs to have its completely own episode. I want to wait for more information to come out. I don't want the whole thing to be just like outright speculation and things like that. The big breaking news is that it was found, it was video recorded, and then it was carbon tested and dated. And, a lot of poo-pooers out there on the internet, and, a lot of armchair scientists, myself included, are going to tell you one thing or the other. I don't know. It's a little upsetting when you see people who are just YouTubers, like making value-based judgments about someone like Dr. Greer, who's dedicated over 3 decades of his life to the Disclosure Project, and then talking about like, oh, I just don't like the way he sounds. It's like, really? A guy who's dedicated his entire, the majority of the last 3.5 decades of his life to trying to make sure disclosure can happen. You don't like the way he sounds. Okay. Click subscribe, rate, share. Right. Nice chair. Love that it has your name on there. Oh, wait. Does mine have mine does not have Late Night on the Astral Plane on it yet. Yeah. That's going to be full circle for me. You'll see. It'll go full circle. We'll do that. We're going to be right back. Remember, patreon.com/Ryan Singer. $3 a month, no commercials. Thanks to all the new patrons over there. And thanks to those who have been there forever. I love that you're over there. I hope you enjoy the ad-free content, and there'll be some more content there. I'm going to be traveling this coming week, so there'll be only one episode this week. It'll be this one. And then I'll be back in town. I'll be back in town for a little while. We got some things cooking I'm excited to tell you about. But yeah, and those announcements usually get broken earlier over on the Patreon page. It's $3 a month. You can do that. And I'd appreciate it. And I do appreciate it to everybody who already does. We're going to be right back. I want to get into Far Journeys Out of the Body by Robert Monroe, because at the end of the book, before actually I get into this, we're going to talk, and I have my glasses because I was going to read. Before we get into the near Earth humans and how he's classified them through his journeys, because I think this is interesting. And we're talking about, off planet beings and, the Boogosphere and Atlas 3I and things like that. Excuse me. Loosh. Let's talk about Loosh. Let's get looshed up. So you'll be reading this book. I highly recommend reading it or listening to the audio version, whatever version, however you like to read, even though reading is, I'm not going to be an old guy and tell you reading is holding a book, but because you can read it on an iPad, an iPhone, a computer. I've done audiobooks. So anyway, I've listened to audiobooks. I don't read them, but that's just the language I use. Languages can be restrictive, and we don't need to be in a prison of our own design here. So just remember that. Don't have to be a jerk about like things. Anyway, the best way for you to synthesize new information and to learn things, I'm all for it. If it's listening to someone talk, if it's watching it play itself out and like moving pictures or through slides or something like that, if you're more of a visual learner in that way, If you like to sponge it in through reading and having a book in your hands, I'm all for that. iPad, whatever the best way for you to get the information that you're seeking in however you can feed your curiosity and your wonder, I'm all about that. And we don't need to be, there's no hierarchy of best ways to ascertain information. I just want to be extra crystal clear on that. Okay. So anyway, I just love having an old worn out book in my hands. And because you can I feel as though I can feel the energy of those who have previously read it and maybe tap in a bit into their emotions, thoughts, and feelings as well when maybe they were reading the book. So for me, that's a really fun aspect of reading a book. Now, Loosh, you'll be reading this book in whatever way, or you'll be in whatever way you do it. And then all of a sudden, a new chapter starts, and you're like, what in Valhalla is happening here? Right. And then the next thing you know, you're reading this, pretty intense, not short chapter about something that kind of totally comes out of left field. And you're just like, what? And that's how, at least I was. There didn't seem to be a preface or a preamble to this happening, right? And next thing you know, you're learning about Loosh. Loosh. Now, Loosh is the energy that human beings are emanating, creating in some way and or fashion. Now, we could probably do a whole episode on Loosh if we really wanted to, starting with the origins of Loosh, which is from this book right here, Far Journeys by Robert Monroe, one of the pioneers of out-of-body experience and travel, right? Now, for some context here, I'll see if I can read it. It's a little dim in here, and I don't have my glasses on. The Far Journeys book first was published, let's see here, I believe that says 1985. So literally 40 years ago. Now, if you remember, one of the most enjoyable and pleasant and something that just really tickled me from Journeys Out of the Body by Robert Monroe, which is the first book, and Ultimate Journey is the third, which I'll start very, very soon. One of the last sentences in this book before you get to the appendix and all that stuff, or the bibliography. And let's see here. Sorry. It's the last two paragraphs. Okay. Okay, I know I've done this before, but I want to go back just a smidge because to me, this is like some beautiful stuff that's unfolding here. Therefore, doing the right thing. He's writing about doing the right thing. That's right. I'm remembering this now. Therefore, doing the right thing, the human act most respected, the most godlike by our standards, is in direct violation of God's prime command to all nature. Moreover, to compound the contradiction, it is impossible to achieve the second state without subjugation and or subordination of the survival drive in its most basic forms. DNA, somehow you have the wires crossed. And what he's referring to is the contradiction is that the principal idealistic notions of man, the noble virtues, the great acts, all have as their base the denial and or rejection of this prime command. The man who gives to another his bread, who provides for his family at the cost of early death, who gives of himself to community and country without direct benefit, who deliberately endangers and possibly sacrifices his life for others, has done the right thing. And the prime command that's being referenced here is survival. Survival as the prime command means avoidance of death by whatever method available, right? So therefore, doing the right thing, the human act most respected, the most godlike by our standards. If that's the phrase that you buy into and enjoy. It's in direct violation of God's prime command of survival to all of nature, not just human beings. So that's what he's referencing when he says DNA, somehow you have the wires crossed. From these fundamentals, 1,000 secondary premises come to the surface like bubbles rising from the primordial mass below the organic rubble on the ocean floor. Through layer upon layer of sedimentary misconception, they steep upward into light. Is it better to burn the evidence, to ignore it, or, with all of the existing potentials, to try to widen the doorway? With the latter comes this probability. In the year 2025, a boy in locale 1, real quick, locale 1 is this physical world. That's what he references. He has different locales, locale 1, 2, and so on, when he's talking about, being in physical form, being out of body, being in second body, things like that. Locale 1 is the world. Okay, you and I would recognize it because we're moving around in it right now, probably. So with the latter comes the probability. In the year 2025, a boy in locale 1 pushes a button on a device, much like a portable radio. I perceive the signal and turn my attention to him. Hi there, son. I greet him warmly, and my great-great-grandchild smiles in recognition. That's the end of the book. Robert Monroe is talking about ITC devices at the end of the first book. Isn't that wild? Isn't that really cool? Super, super fascinating and super cool to me, right? My experience with ITC devices, specifically the investigation in Florida and other places, it's at times has been absolutely mind-blowing. And it leads me to believe and lean into the idea that ITC communication, that's being redundant. ITC devices and the method by communicating with other intelligences, dead, off planet, or whatever else, ITC instrumental transcommunication. Sorry, there's noise in the background that's distracting me. Instrumental transcommunication is the future, and it is probably going to be the most effective way, we've talked about this before, for the masses to get on board with some of this stuff, with this paranormal stuff. ITC is the way for the masses to get on board with this. Now, there's a minority, and I don't think it's a huge minority here in the world, that can tap into astral projection, remote viewing, clairvoyance, intuition, psychic abilities, etc., to be receiving same and or similar messaging. Now, you don't need the ITC devices, but the ITC devices are a great potential bridge between this world and the paranormal world for those who haven't had the time, energy, and or, I don't know, maybe dedication and discipline to hone these other skills like out-of-body travel and things like that, or NVC, nonverbal communication, as Monroe will refer to it in his books and through his like gateway meditation program. That's kind of the language there, which apparently is it's telepathy. Okay, and I could be getting this wrong on some varying degree of levels here, but when Monroe's talking about NVC, nonverbal communication, in my opinion, it sounds like he's talking about telepathy. The people that I know that are telepathic, who have received telepathic communications and or sent them, they are describing the same thing. And that's part of the cool part of doing the Gateway meditation program. You get, once you move far enough along, you start getting into trying to hone and develop NVC, or telepathy and telepathic communication. And you're trying to get information. You're trying to communicate with people. Who are you trying to communicate with? That's a very good question. And I think the answer might lie somewhere within book 2, Far Journeys. Epilogue, the end game here. There's a section here called Cruising the Rings, where Monroe talks about going out and, all of his time, decades of time spent traveling and blasting off and getting out there and moving around. The people that the things, the entities, the personalities that he's met, he's communicated with, become friends with, developed relationships with, the places he's seen, the information he's gathered, and the judgments that he's made, and the definitions he's come up with. And he's been gathering information that whole time, and he's been collecting it and Luckily for us, he put them into books before he died. There's a few different levels of entities or of non-humans. Let's see here. Okay, let's just go from here. Cruising the rings. The first inner layer ring was clear and more distinct from my non-physical perspective, and all seemed to be completely focused on the activities of the inhuman physical condition. Any attempts to communicate or divert their attention were met with total unawareness, at the least, and at the most, bewilderment, fear, or outright hostility. All were attempting to participate in physical life in one way or another with no success whatsoever. All seemed to have one common characteristic. They were completely unaware of any existence other than physical. Only through repeated observation at first hand was it possible to generally sort out and classify such near-Earth humans into some semblance of order. So, near-Earth humans, right? So, doesn't what he described, at least part of it, sound a lot like an imprint? You hear a lot of paranormal investigators and researchers talk about certain ghosts that are just stuck in a loop. They're stuck in a pattern, and they don't interact with you. They don't respond to you when engaged. They, as if almost they don't even see you, notice you, and at the very least, they care not for you and to give you any semblance or indication of communication back to you when you try. Now, these patterns, these loops, whether they've been burned in because of some dramatic emotional event, a lot of people suspect, that's the big theory, that there's some kind of really deeply emotional connectivity to the area, to the thing, to the job, to the place. It sounds a lot like part of what he's describing here to me. All words, all roads and worlds. World and road. Word. Woad. Okay. They're colliding here. Do you feel it? The first, we'll just go through some of these, briefly. I'm not going to read you the whole book. I mean, I should just read the next book and record it the whole time so you can just listen to it. The Dreamers. This group has a distinctive vibration, or radiation, that indicates they are attached to a physical body somewhere in the current Earth time space. This infers, but does not verify, that they may be in an out-of-body state during sleep. They apparently are attempting to continue the activity they have been performing during their physical waking hours, or those they desire or fantasize. Some are simply going through the motions. Others are trying to talk with those they know who are physically awake, or eating, drinking, working, playing, trying to perform sexual acts, acting out MIDI-like roles in the middle of Manhattan, all without frustration. All, with few exceptions, without any recognition of similar activities around them. What might be loosely termed evidence of their origin is that they suddenly wink out or disappear in the middle of an action. Are they awakening in the physical again, out of sleep? Dream analysts may be on the right track, but with the wrong perspective. Now, there's lots of interesting stuff to unpack in just that dreamers section, I would argue. I've had multiple conversations on this show with people who are lucid dreamers, who astral project. And what starts to strike me as really profound when it comes to the details of some of their experiences is just how skilled and varied these astral travelers indeed are. Now, oftentimes they don't even call themselves that. They don't know they're doing out of body. Maybe they suspect to a certain degree, but we're talking about moving forward and backward in time. We're talking about blinking to new locations instantly. These are all aspects of what Monroe details throughout this book, through many, many journal entries of his experiences. It's just, this whole book is just chock full of astral projection traveling and experiences and detailed information about what was occurring, what he was feeling, thinking, perceiving, and seeing while out there. Now you might be asking yourself, what are you floating around in like a body that looks exactly like yours? Well, according to Monroe, the further you get away from Earth or your physical body, where your physical body is resting while you're doing astral travel, the less memory your energetic body has. And eventually you get far enough away, you're just kind of like a blob, or kind of like a ball of light, or an energetic sphere or something moving around. Now, are people sleeping? Are they orbs flying around? Isn't that wild to think about? That orbs showing up on people's cameras constantly all the time. Are they other people sleeping out, having out-of-body experiences, and they just don't realize it? Or maybe they do realize it, but maybe they don't realize it. So when you're seeing some of these ghosts in certain locations, right, are they people sleeping and they wink out and they're gone? Does it just happen? Have I been a ghost to anyone out there? Have you been a ghost to people before without even realizing it? Have you been seen in your astral form in locale 1? We're talking about locale 1 here. But he's talking about out there. He's talking about the rings, cruising the rings, the first inner layer or ring. Okay, then you got the locked ins. I mean, you can pretty much figure out who the locked ins are. You got the dreamers, now you got the locked ins. These are very similar to the previous category and might be confused with them initially, but for several key differences. This group is composed solely of those who have permanently exited their current physical body, dead physically, but don't know it. So, big difference between the dreamer and the locked ins. The locked ins are people who have passed physical form. The dreamers are those who are alive and dreaming, hence the name dreamers, I suppose. It should have been more obvious to me when I first read it. Now that I'm thinking about it, it should have been a lot more obvious to me upon first and or second read. So consequently, they are trying to constantly to continue a physical existence to which they have become habituated. They often remain around physical locations such as houses and physically living persons to whom they have become attached. Some continue to attempt re-entry into their dead physical bodies and to reactivate them, even into the grave, which may give credence to the strange radiation effects sometimes perceived in cemeteries. The anguish there must go through as they witness the cremation of their physical remains, and certainly something to ponder. The anguish there must go through. As with the dreamers, this group is totally and compulsively bonded to time, space, materiality, stuck in the physical world, the locked-ins and the dreamers. Now, you can transition, you can break through. And apparently there are people who are higher out, farther out, who will go and try to do some help here in these. Then now here we go. You got the dreamers, you got the locked-ins, now you got the wild ones. Now I know you're thinking, let's go straight to wild one, right? We don't need to be dreamers. I mean, we can be dreamers. We don't need to be locked-ins. But the dreamers are even unaware of what they're doing. So I think you want to be an awake dreamer, which does that sound familiar? Does that sound like the what's the name of the Samantha Fay book? Something like that. The Awake Dreamer. Okay, the wild ones. Let's get into the wild ones. I know you're here for this. Much lesser in number than the above, but with their same motivating drives expressed in an entirely different manner. The reason is a slight shift in awareness. The wild ones do not realize they have lost the use of their physical bodies, as they do not perceive anything other than physical matter reality. However, they are very much aware that they are somehow different. They don't understand the whys and hows of it and have no desire to learn. So I don't know if you really want to be a wild one. So you're a wild one. You're like, I know something's different here, and I know there's no more rules, and I'm just going to go out and be a wild one, right? But you're locked in. You're stuck, right? you're stuck in the muck, in the mire of it all. They construe this as absolute freedom because they realize that the difference releases them from all of the restraints, obligations, and commitments that were a part of their physical lives. So, I mean, you're a billionaire, right? Basically, you don't have to play. You don't have to play by the rules that the rest of the world does. The previously reported visit to the human sexual pile is a sample. Now, there's that sounds like a weird sentence, and you're right. It's going to sound like a weird sentence. There's a bunch of these people who kind of get stuck in this, the vibration of this, of doing the physical and wanting to, because apparently the sensation or the whatever can feel pretty intense. And so there's all these people out there who are drawn like moths to a flame to that. And that's all they do. They're just in a big pile, a big sexual pile, endlessly, because they can't get to where they're trying to get because they don't have their physical body, if you understand what I'm saying here. So so it might sound like fun for a minute, but it doesn't really get you anywhere. Okay. Monroe goes to say there was much to be learned from these inner rings. Now, these are the inner rings, not the outer rings. Most of it the hard way, if your perspective is still heavily encased in human time-space illusions. It is pointless to recount the many attempted contacts with the inhabitants therein. You can do it yourself without bothering to enter the OOBE state. Interview and observe a cross-section group of humans now living in any large city. The resulting data will be a restrained version and much easier to handle. The source of such preoccupation in every case seems to be extreme distortions of the original survival imprint. Now, basically what he's saying is these inner circles here are, you're really latched onto human energy, and it's the space-time materiality. And one of the big aspects, apparently, allegedly, of traveling out of body, really experiencing that you are more than the physical world. And because you are more than physical matter, there are, what is it? That you are able to perceive that which is greater than the physical world. You are able to understand, perceive, control, explore, and not to mention the other things and or people type characters that are out there, and you're connected to them and you can instantly be there. If so, you are able to achieve such a state. But the inner rings, not so much. You're still kind of stuck in this idea of the physical, of space-time and the physical body. Evidently, there are methods by which rescues are achieved individually and on a relatively large scale, and the process is ongoing. I personally have been involved in only one or two that I can remember, and I am not particularly proud of my efforts. I did learn one or two minor items. First, awareness of the cacophony of discordant, undirected radiation engendered by human thought. Discordant, undirected radiation engendered by human thought, identified as M-band. That's what he calls it. Monroe calls it M-band. Second, how to close down my perception to bring it to tolerable levels. The necessity syndrome again. It's a nice trick to have even in the physical waking state. M-band noise. It's going to tie a little bit into maybe what some of you are thinking Loosh might have something to do with. We can talk about that when we get back. We're going to do one more quick break, and then we're going to be back at it again. Let's do it. Patreon.com/Ryan Singer. Let's make it a party. Okay, I had a sip of my DC here. I'm cutting down on all my stuff here. I'm trying to, live longer, healthier, and happier. Let's get into Loosh and why it's been bastardized. M-band noise is not Loosh. M-band noise is your thoughts, right? I wanted to get into maybe a little bit more of this because there's some really, really cool stuff in here. There's lots of questions and answers that he did at the end of this book. that I think are helpful. One of them being, if I astral travel, can something else get into my body? The answer is no. No. According to Robert Monroe, the pioneer of out of body experiences, the answer is no. Now, is it dangerous? No. Now, does Monroe, it gets a little trickier, and maybe we'll do this later because he talks about occupying other people's bodies. But hey, Sinbad, if you're out there listening, you don't have to worry about a demon getting into your body. If you're having an out of body experience, astral travel, astral projecting, you don't have to worry about a demon getting in there. I am never worried about that. As I try to do the Gateway Voyage meditation programs, and I'm constantly trying, doing these things to make an attempt to leave body. And then also while I'm sleeping, I'm certainly leaving body. I have 0% concern and or worry about a demon coming into my empty vessel or whatever. Now, I'm not trying to be dismissive of those of you who have those beliefs. That's just not where I'm at, and I'm not worried about it. And you might think I'm foolish, but the OG right here, Monroe, is old Bobby over here, has assured us. So Loosh is this thing, this energy that humans create, and it's going somewhere, and it has a purpose, and it's being used for something, right? But here's the thing, it's neutral. It's not good, it's not bad, or the people or the things or whatever is happening is not some nefarious, matrix that's been built to create a world where we can create it. This isn't Monsters Inc., right? Which Monsters, the writers of Monster Inc. probably got this from some bastardized version, their idea for their movie, because the reptilians and the black goo and all these conspiratorial theories about humans' energy is being harvested by the reptilians or some other nefarious agency of aliens or something. It's all taken from this book, this one chapter in Far Journeys, where Monroe details the information he perceived and or was given or perceived, I guess, right? And it's kind of disappointing that I didn't realize the origins of all those conspiracy theories and the stories. Specifically, the big one that stands out to me is the reptilians and the black goo thing, right? Or whatever we want to call it. But, I think people will call it Loosh. But there's all kinds of people on the internet trying to tell you got to be careful because they're going to try to get your Loosh. It's like, that's not, you're bastardizing the writings and the information given from the person who brought it, the person who discovered it, and the person who talked about it and wrote about it first. So that's just not happening. Now, do I think there's reptilians out there trying to live off of human energy and things like that? Call me naive, but no, I don't. I'm not into the reptilian, the evil reptilian alien race narrative. Never really have been, right? David Icke is a guy who's kind of like a reptilian guy, if I'm not mistaken, and the moon is just like an amplifier to keep us all in this. I'm bastardizing the misinformation and the conspiratorial muck that David Icke has put out there over the years. But what's interesting is David Icke is one of these people who gave dates about predicting stuff happening, and guess what? Never happened. Multiple times. If I'm not mistaken, twice David Icke has given a prediction date and hasn't happened. So you understand the road people are going down potentially when they start giving dates, specific dates for things. Now, things get mucky down there in the prognostication game when it comes to big warnings or, I dealt with a lot of that stuff as a kid. And it's just, how many times was the world going to end? God, I was never supposed to make it to 25, let alone 49. This is ridiculous, right? The way the world ends is because human beings, we don't mitigate the climate change disaster and or the human rights crisis that are happening all over the world. And we meld ourselves down, figuratively and literally. I think that's what happens there. So Anyway, it's oh God, I want to. There's something loud happening. Let's see here. I don't know if you hear that or not, but hopefully not. Hold on a second. I got to pause this. Okay, I'm back. I don't remember what I was talking about before I left, but I'm back. We were talking about Loosh, how Loosh was hijacked from Far Journeys by Robert Monroe. Can't recommend this book enough. Can't recommend Journeys Out of the Body enough. Very, very good books, very enjoyable, especially if you're into meditation and want to get into astral travel or out-of-body experiences, that kind of thing. Great companion pieces to any kind of practice, any kind of meditative practice regarding trying to do anything astral. And as you know, Late Night on the Astral Plane, we're all about that over here. The final episode of this program, which, no, excuse me, that was gross. Sorry. I had a raisinette or two. The final episode of this show will be me transitioning to doing this show full-time on the astral plane. That's the goal. Out of body, out on the astral plane, full-time, running the first talk show out on the astral plane. That's what we're doing already. And that's what we're going to be doing again in the future. So yeah, I think we're going to wrap this bad boy up. I want you to know that I'll be in Dayton, Ohio, December 20th. We're doing a show there. I'll be in Mason City, Illinois, the weekend before that. I think the 12th and the 13th of December. Those are my only Midwestern dates for the rest of the year, or my only stand-up dates for the rest of the year before next year. As of now, I don't know. I mean, a New Year's Eve gig might come in. I'm not sure about that. Nothing yet on the books. But yeah, so we're doing Bricky's Comedy Club in downtown Miamisburg. I'm very excited. Really cool spot. Cool new comedy club room that opened up in downtown Miamisburg a couple years ago. Great vibe, great scene, great comics. It's going to be a really good time. And then Mason City Limits, the comedy club there, obviously in Mason City, Illinois, December 12th and 13th. Always love being there with my buddy Chris Spire at his wonderful club. I got Naps Over Nuke shirts. Look at this. If you want one of these shirts, you just got to let me know and I'll mail it to you. You can message me on social media. You can Venmo me or PayPal me. These are the Naps Over Nuke shirts, and I've got some left over from touring. So I need to move those. Let's move them. Let's get you into one of those super comfy, peace-loving Naps Over Nuke shirts. I think you'd love it. I know. I love wearing them. My buddy Torkel over at OCP, October Custom Publishing, hooked those up. So again, thanks again for watching, for listening. We got into a little bit about Far Journeys. We got into the Boogosphere a little bit, Atlas 3i. We did some things, and it was a good time. And, hopefully we got some things going here. And you're not going crazy. There's some things being yelled here in the dad pad. So anyway, RyanSingerComedy.com. That's it. And there's lots of things going on. And I'm very excited to start digging into the process of editing Portal Creek. That's what we're calling the documentary as of now, I believe. The investigation in Florida. I believe that's what we're going to be calling. I mean, I don't know if I talked to you about that. We'll have to do that another time because, I mean, what we did on this last trip was bonkers. And it was really, really wild and kind of a life-changing moment for a lot of us there. And but in the meantime, I hope you take care of yourself. And remember, over here, it's never too late. And if I don't see you at a live show or something like that around Los Angeles, I'll just see you at the watering hole on the astral plane.